Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Building Our World. Today I was joined by Karina Buschsieweke, co-founder of LanaLabs in Berlin. In our conversation, we discuss her journey from family business to now a co-founder in her own right of a growing software company. We talk through the transferable skills she gained from martial arts and how she put these lessons of withstanding high pain and the art of discipline into her business life. And then in the second half, she was really honest about why she has put herself out there in her life, building multiple businesses, and also gives some great advice for any aspiring founders who want to build on an idea. This one is not to be missed, and I really hope you enjoy it. So Karina, co-founder of LanaLabs in Berlin, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here.
No, thank you so much for coming on. We were just talking about the COVID restrictions and how it's all coming along in London. We've got one more day till we're out till I can get a haircut, but it's not looking so good in Berlin.
No, I mean, in Berlin you can get haircuts, but not much more than that. Restaurants and bars, all cultural activities are still locked down. Yes.
Deary me, deary me. So let's get right back to the beginning then. You graduated, I do hope my research is right, in innovation, management and entrepreneurship in 2014. And then you worked for 2 years as a project manager before founding LanaLabs in 2016. That is quite early on, I'd say, in someone's life to do something like that. So how did this big leap in your life, this big moment in your life come about so soon?
Yeah, I would say it actually started much earlier. So I was raised in a family business, and I really learned about being an entrepreneur pretty early on. And for me, it was always it was always very imaginable to do something like that myself. And that's actually how I already started during my studies with my first business, which was MB2, which is an online furniture shop. So my family is manufacturing furniture in the west of Germany, and pretty high quality manufacturing. And during my studies, and when I learned so much about new business models and the way we can transform these industries, I was thinking about how we could do this as well for our sales channels. And that's how I actually started my first business, bringing furniture online, building the own brand, designing. And that was already the first step. And when I then started my first job as a project manager, which was very much about technology analysis in this case, I did this on the side as well, and was basically finding out for myself which path I'm going to follow on later, and then clearly decided for the entrepreneur's life that I already had guessed what would be the result of that.
Mm. So this furniture thing, was it like a family business and then you took more of a role in it?
So it is a family business, but me and my partner, we did found our own company basically on top of this. So they are doing the manufacturing part, and we have really created our own brand, our own sales channels, and it's a strong collaboration, of course, but it's an independent business still.
So when you were growing up, was the message from your family, because it's so different for everyone, did they instill a certain, work for yourself mentality, or was it, get a job mentality?
Okay, so where I'm coming from, it's a place that's called, I guess in English it's actually really called East Westphalia, which sounds really strange, but it's a region in Germany that is maybe also known a bit for being having a certain mentality. And what is a core mentality for sure there is work. So working ethics are very important there, and I think that's just something that I've learned from the very beginning. You want to do something, you need to work for it. But also this taught me basically that anything I want to achieve, I probably can if I just put enough effort. So, and this probably gave me, the spirit that you kind of need for also starting a business, because you need to imagine something that is not there yet, and you need to convince yourself that it is possible, even though if you maybe think about it on the one or other way, it's not always as straightforward, right? So I think it's the mentality of the region that helped me really developing my extremely optimist mindset, even though that's very contradictory to what this region is actually about. I guess that was still a very positive impact in the end.
So when it comes to visualization in particular, is that something you practice at all? Imagining something that isn't there? A lot of gurus and motivational people will tell you to sit and visualize your future and really imagine it in your mind. Is that something you've ever done, or something you're a big believer in?
Probably not that consciously, but I do run a lot. And when I'm running, my mind gets thinking. And then it also gets thinking about future stuff that isn't there, and stories that are still to be told. And probably that's kind of a process where the creativity then also kicks in when you're running. And then, just let your thoughts flow and see where they go. Yeah, true.
Running's great. I mean, in this lockdown and in the last one, I started running because I usually go to the gym. Anyone who sees me, I'm definitely not built for long distance running. But one thing that is, if you're trapped inside your mind and your thoughts are trapped inside your mind, you go on a run and everything just seems a bit more freer. It's almost like the veil is lifted on your life, and you can just think so much more clearly afterwards.
Yeah, I can so much relate to this, because I'm more into martial arts actually.
Oh yeah.
And only did the running thing as a additional component for a condition. But just yesterday, I was telling my management colleagues, for the check-in of our meeting. We always start our week in the meetings, like, how is everyone? And I was just telling them how great I felt, because I just had had made another record in running that I never intended to. I never was actually ambitious about being a fast runner. But now.
Do you have the app on your phone that gives you live feedback of your times?
Oh yeah, afterwards at least. I mean, I just record and then check the time afterwards.
I see.
And, so
because I've got this Nike running app, and I always go out with the intention to just have a nice jog around and not push myself too hard if I'm feeling a bit tired. And it gives you an update like every kilometer, and it's just like time. It's like 5. It's the Nike running app. It's like gives you a time, and then you're like, but last time I ran the first kilometer 10 seconds quicker. Let's go a bit quicker now. And then you end up just killing yourself on this 3-kilometer run. So you can't help it. The numbers can rule your mind.
I see. Yeah, maybe I try that too.
Oh, it's a dangerous path to go down. You'll be out every day. What martial arts do you do?
Well, I used to start with Kyokushin karate, so that's a full contact karate style, and then switched to Muay Thai later on. So that's what I'm currently doing.
So interesting. I've never done martial arts. I've kind of just observed it from a distance. How much does the mental side of it all and the discipline of it, how much does that relate to the business, your discipline in business? And, is there sort of transferable skills? Because there isn't in all sports to business. I used to play rugby at a reasonable level. So I'll be interested to know the crossover between the two disciplines.
Yeah, that has a huge impact actually, and it's a really interesting relationship also, especially in karate and in Kyokushin karate. What you learn is to endure pain and to gain resistance, and also not letting it out too much, right? I mean, something hurts, but you shouldn't tell anyone, right? It's about really
Oh.
staying strong and just going through it, breathing through it, basically, and a lot of times. And I think this has some similarities with yoga, then again, too. But this is really a mentality where you learn that not everything that is hard or painful is something that you necessarily need to put on up front, or is something that you need to yeah take as a huge barrier, but it's just how it is, and you will just get through it. And I think this is a core mentality that helps, because in business, not everything is going well all the time. It's usually quite the opposite. And I think then it's really good that you have learned that there are ways that, okay, this is how it is painful, it is hard, but you have the endurance to go through it. And that's just I think it's a feeling of security that you have with this, right? To know that you can do this, like this won't take you down, more or less like that. Yeah.
Is that like an inner belief that has to be developed over the years of training? I mean, I could be either talking about martial arts or business here, but in martial arts specifically, is that something that's heavily trained upon?
I think it has to do with discipline and all. I also had to learn to actually apply this discipline to yourself, because first of all, in martial arts, it's very hierarchical. So you have your trainer, basically. So there are different levels, but it's a lot about respect. And this is something that you have to learn when you're coming from a Western culture, in general, to learn about this behavior, this very respectful, and also, it's about discipline in training. And I guess either you sign up for this because you think this is an interesting experience also for yourself, or this is not for you. But I think if you're willing to open up for some kind of discipline, you will also see how much it can do for yourself. And it doesn't mean that you always have to be very disciplined. I think it's quite the opposite. I think being able to be very disciplined on the one hand also leaves you the space for not being disciplined at all at other points of time. But the ability to be very disciplined when it counts, I think that's a great thing to have.
Well, you're so right there, because I think there's been like scientific studies into like willpower, and it is a finite resource for a human being. You can only have so much willpower for so long, and it's something that can be trained and can be sort of improved on. But I can definitely relate it to my life. If I do, 3 months, or like, yes, I'd say 3 months of like a proper work sprint, or a couple of weeks where it's kind of insane, the level of work that's going in. You get to the end of those 2 weeks, and you just want to party for a week, because you've just used up so much discipline and so much of your time on this particular thing. And then when I read these studies into willpower and how what goes up must come down, and I suppose that has to be the same with this.
True. But that's also, I think, what gives a lot of energy to be able to create these ups and downs, so to say.
I don't know if it's at all possible. I can't think of any other way of working in sprints, like a like a month-long sprint. So I take a week off every 3 months, non-negotiable. What's your sort of work sprints like?
Well, I got to the point that I would consider myself a marathon runner. so,
Yeah.
so that's definitely something that's, I think from my personality, I have a tendency to go all the way and do it a very long time. And probably you have to keep me from going on at a certain point of time. So, but that's also depending on what is work, right? I mean, work is not work. I mean, there are things, of course, that are not too much fun, but other things, I do not consider them as work too much because it's just something that's that's interesting me and doesn't feel like work. So it's always very difficult to draw the line there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've just always found if I get to 3 months and I haven't had any time off, then there's just like a diminishing returns as well. But then it's all about how, if you're like on a Sunday night and you got like a Monday morning and it's like, oh, I've got work tomorrow, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. That's your mind shaping your week. You know, it's not objectively true. That's your mind. And also that's energy sapping as well. That takes up a lot of your mental and emotional bandwidth to be able to look at your week and your working week in that way.
Yeah, true.
But anyway, I'm rambling on as always. We should probably talk a bit about how LanaLabs actually started back, well, in 2016, I suppose, is when it was launched. So you were a project manager. You'd studied your master's in entrepreneurship, and you've had the furniture business as well. Yeah. So how did this business come about?
Yeah, so as I said, I was working in the automotive industry as a technology analyst, and I really thought that it's interesting what kind of potential the whole digitization will open up for this whole industry, and especially manufacturing processes and these things, which is something that we analyze today with LanaLabs as well. They really just got my interest, and technology in general was something that was super interesting for me, having done something in e-commerce, which was, the thing to do back then on the one hand, but I also realized that this is nothing that will change the world, right? I mean, of course, that's one way of how a certain industry will further develop, but this is simply not where I could have the impact with that I wanted to have, actually. And that's why I was specifically looking for people with the technology that also wanted to start a business. And that's how I went on looking for people with a technology. And I met Rami and Thomas at a workshop at the Hasso-Plattner Institute at the Design Thinking School. That was a business model workshop. We met, worked as a team there in this workshop, and just clicked. So that was as easy as that in the sense. So, and the whole topic of process optimization was very new for me. I mean, I was into innovation processes and of course, a bit manufacturing processes, but I never thought about the systematic approach of improving processes, learning about this whole world of lean management, Six Sigma, continuous improvement, operational excellence, business process modeling. What the hell is that? Back then, now I'm an expert in a field that, a couple of years ago I did not have a lot of ideas about. But it's really interesting how you then get expertise in something, and it's quite fun, actually.
Did when you met at that workshop and it all clicked, did you all have that thought at the same time that you wanted to do this, or did a couple of people have to be talked around to get it going? Because it's a big deal, isn't it? Because everyone's life has to be right as well,
Yeah, but so I was very open for it. So I wanted this, right? So that was a good start. And then Thomas and Rami, they had worked together at the Hasso-Plattner Institute, and they were just finishing their PhDs, and their research was showing some results where they said, well, there are some process mining solutions on the market, but what we have found out here is something where we could really offer uh, a much better solution. So that's how they had this idea in mind already, to just do this from their engineering perspective. And I was convinced right away that this is for sure a relevant business model. Yeah, I mean that was quite obvious, that it, like, the idea in itself, using data to optimize, so to analyze and then optimize processes, as opposed to today doing this with interviews. That was quite straightforward, that this is something that can be very successful. So I was convinced from the business perspective. And then the other thing is that I remember after this first day of the workshop, Thomas and I were sitting in the S-Bahn back to Berlin, so the HPI is in Potsdam.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there, and he went like, Karina, you are going to do this with us. We are going to do this. So he was convinced right away, and I was like, okay. So basically it was clear from the very beginning, and that's just nice if this happens, right? Yeah.
Was it one of those moments where you wanted it to happen, and then he said it's happening, and then you're like, oh, this is actually happening then? This is almost like a shock.
Right. I mean, I think it's always great if people come together and all feel about something the same way. I think that's always a bit of magic happening. So
Absolutely. So how did it work in terms of like the split of responsibilities? Because I'm guessing they would do, coding up the product and the algorithm. Because is it like a machine learning algorithm that's at the center of your product?
That's one part, but we have a lot of other algorithms as well that are more around, classic process analysis, and so it's different core technologies that we're using. But Thomas and Rami started coding in the beginning, but then also Rami switched more to the business side after a couple of months when we got other coders, and then Rami took care of sales and the whole partner business, while I took care of the whole business perspective, the marketing, basically everything else in the beginning. And Thomas was taking care of the development. Yeah.
Okay.
That was pretty straightforward in the beginning.
Okay. And how did you go about getting those first clients, or how did you generate a buzz for your software? And because you definitely solve a problem, and we'll probably come on to, I know businesses lose millions of pounds every year because of processes. So how are you going about educating your potential clients and then eventually getting them on board?
Yeah, so I think the first coup was really something, as you could put it in a school book, and I can only recommend everyone to do this. So we went out to showcase our product at the CeBIT, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But it was just a click dummy prototype. We didn't even, the business was not even officially founded. We're just at the tip of it. We had an MVP that you could just click but not do anything else. And then we showcased this on the CeBIT. The Hasso-Plattner Institute, again, took us there, promoted our case. And through this, we got the first customers that would then go for proof of concepts. And with them, we could also further develop the product. So that was really nice that we could convince people just from showing the concept, then having a bit more time, of course, to develop the actual product, but then also had the first paying customers right in the first year. So that
Oh,
was
amazing.
great. Yes.
And did you use that proof to be able to go to investors or other clients?
Yes. So we did have an initial seed investment also from the Hasso-Plattner Institute. They have a special fund for
Okay.
promoting their research there. So that was nice. We also did have an Exist scholarship, which is more European funding, which was also great. So we did have a bit of money in the beginning. And then, of course, we had to start, raising more money than around 2017. We were really in the fundraising phase, and there, of course, it is always this tipping point. It's good if you have a few customers. I mean, you need a few customers, so anyone believes that your product is something that's useful. But then again, in Germany, it's sometimes not the easiest mentality, as we have a competitor from Germany that is a very successful company, and sometimes, I think the mentality in Germany is a bit more conservative in this regard. So a lot of times, what we heard back then was, yeah, well, we see that the space you're in is very, very relevant and attractive, but there is this one other competitor already, so we don't know if there is space for another, which is ridiculous because it's such a
Yeah.
huge market. There is space for tons of players.
And surely that's a good thing that there's companies, successful companies, doing what you want to do. Obviously, you'll have your own spin on it, but surely the investors should think, well, there's probably is money to be made there.
Yeah, so one of the investors that we could convince very early on was Vestec Ventures from Berlin, and Masoud. He was also back then. He was also saying, this is so typical for Germany, and this is also the reason why companies like Microsoft, etc., are not founded in Germany, because we're just a bit too reluctant to invest also in maybe in spaces that are early, or where you cannot see yet clearly who will be the leader in this market, but also acknowledging that this is a new space opening up. So this whole process mining, or if you want to put it a bit bigger, this business process management space combined with digitization, it is so huge. It's just an incredible space where we have a lot of potential to really, really change industries. So.
You say about Germany and having its problems with innovation in the early stage. How much is Berlin like a juxtaposition to that? Because there'll be a lot of people listening from sort of all around the world who would just see Germany as Germany. How different is Berlin as a tech hub compared to the rest of Germany, would you say?
100% different. That's yes. I mean, I do not have 10 cities I can compare that I have lived in before, but from the mentality and from the diversity of the people, that's unique. That is very unique in Germany, and you don't have that anywhere else. I think, of course, different areas for sure have different ups and downsides, right? Not everything in Berlin is great, but still, I really, really love it here, and it's because the people here are international already. That's also the reason why more are coming, I think, because it's just easier to settle. Yeah. So.
Is it more open? I mean, could you have done what you've done at Lana in, say, like Frankfurt or Munich?
So that's a tough question, because I'm not sure if I would have been able to gather the same team, but for sure I would have been able to acquire more customers.
Okay.
So the closeness to relevant industries, that's in Frankfurt and in Munich. that's 10 times better. And that's not only, I mean, of course I can visit, of course I can go from Berlin to Munich and visit a customer. And yes, we do have customers there as well. But I do think it is different if I am coming from a region, if I have my network there, if I know the people working in these companies, if I meet the CEO of this whatever company at some local event. And I think these are tiny differences in the end and of course, this doesn't let you scale your business in the end. But I think especially in the beginning, it is helpful if you have a strong network in the industry. Well, if your product is targeted at that, because that's something where in Berlin, of course, you get a lot of support from institutions and funding and all these things, and it's great for the team. And cost-wise, it is good. But if you're a B2B enterprise product, there might be regions that are a bit more attractive to gain customers.
Is that because, these Munich, Frankfurt, whatever, much more established, lots of bigger companies there? Is it just a bigger ecosystem? Is that why?
Yes, definitely. So you have the whole automotive industry and all the suppliers based in these regions in the south or also in the west of Germany. It's just much more industrialized. And I mean, here in Berlin and Brandenburg, we are looking forward to companies like Tesla now coming. So maybe, we will be changing the game here as well. But so far, the really heavy industries and the large companies, they are not located in Berlin. This is the startup hub in the end.
Yeah.
And they need to get a bit bigger, I guess, so they can buy our software as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was speaking to another founder from Berlin a few weeks ago, and it's almost sometimes hard to remember that 10 years ago, Berlin tech, didn't really exist. There was like Rocket Internet, Zalando, and that was basically it. So it's still so early on in its journey. And one point that they mentioned as well was that in other cities like Munich, Paris, London, there's almost like a ceiling of growth because of the infrastructure and just crowdedness. In Berlin, there's still a lot more scope for companies to come and join, a lot more places to build. Obviously, they've got to get built first. But in terms of like the long-term potential of Berlin, it seems that there's still a lot more percentage points to go up in terms of growth. It's not like at saturation points.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I also think it will be quite interesting to see how our cities will transform. Really, with all the retailers, will they be able to afford their stores in the cities? Well, I guess the easy answer is not in the long run. And what is going to happen with all this space? There is so much space in the city centers that probably will also get available at some point for more growth, maybe in the creative or startup space. So I think that's going to be exciting. And also, I think it's also changing. The focus of the businesses that are being created is changing. So when you're saying 10 years ago, it was about e-commerce, right? That's when I started with that stuff as well. But today, so when we were fundraising in 2017 as a B2B enterprise SaaS product, that did not really get a lot of interest from investors. But now, a couple of years later, B2B enterprise business, that's the thing. Like that's where they want to invest in, right? That's much more attractive than a lot of consumer businesses. And I think there are also more businesses being started in this more heavy B2B spaces. And I mean, I know why not so many people have done this before, but it's probably not the like if you could choose, it's a bit the heavier road that you choose, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the obviously completely different fields, but I'm in the B2B space as well, and it is like longer sales cycles, but then it's bigger it's bigger transactions as well, and bigger amounts of money. Do you ever? Because I have that same thought as well, but then the grass is always greener. I think, could I just do like a B2C thing? Could I, sell pizzas out the back of a van or something like that?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But then it always looks better, doesn't it? But then it just seems so much easier, because with B2B, you got to jump through a lot of hoops. You got to speak to a lot of people, and you're not just selling down the market.
I know.
Do you see LanaLabs being like, in terms of your like life vision? I know it's like 4 or 5 years in now. Do you see this, for quite a long time, or do you have like other business ideas that you want to maybe build on top as the company grows and you have more of a distant role within the business? How do you see your sort of life vision panning out?
Yeah, it's really nice how it's evolving. So maybe when we were talking about this visualization thing, right? What I do not do is really have a clear goal and a vision for, where do I want to be in 20 years. So I don't have that. I also found out that not every person needs that. I was worried quite a long time, like, why don't I have this? Like, why don't I know what I'm all doing this for in the long run? But turns out for some people, that's just not as important. So for me, things just evolve. And like the next stage that is currently being built, and that's really interesting how it then all goes together. I have started a nonprofit organization this year. It's the Zine Foundation. And the Zine Foundation is taking care about open source technologies for data sharing and collaboration. Because I believe that this is actually the next level of where we need to think, when we think about economic efficiencies and what we can do in the future, this will be the next step. And what we do with process mining is we analyze processes in order to make companies more efficient, ideally also more sustainable. But if we only stay in one company, that's only one part of the game. Where it really gets interesting is if we connect supply chains. If we connect supply chains, then we get the real inefficiencies that usually happen at the intersections of two companies. And I think that this is the next step that on top of LanaLabs, actually, we need to also look like what's the next step, not only making companies look at their own processes, but make them collaborate and optimize whole value chains together. So yeah, I'm continuing to build businesses, but I guess the larger vision that I have is really hoping that I can contribute to a more sustainable economy, and I'm convinced that this is possible with technology. And what I can contribute here, like providing technology, enabling companies using this technology in order to be more sustainable, then I'm happy if I can do that.
Amazing. So to put it in like layman terms for a dummy like me, so LanaLabs is using technology to optimize the processes within a business, and then this new non-profit is optimizing the processes between businesses and supply chains and things like that.
Yeah, it is aimed at building open source infrastructure to enable companies to share and collaborate at all, because today usually two companies are not really willing to share their process data, right? So you need to think about mechanisms, so cryptographic methods where companies can share data, but then the inputs are not revealed. But you can, so to say, run operations on the shared data, but then the individuals only get the benchmarks or whatever you were trying to figure out without ever actually revealing your data. So it's these mechanisms that are needed in order to make companies share and collaborate. And this is the next step that we need to enable them to make process mining across companies. And
I see.
This is where we think that with an open source technology, that's probably the best way to do this.
So from listening to you, it's almost like you start with the mission of a problem you want to solve, as all successful founders do. Do you ever think about like exits and like an end point? Is that how your mind works, or is it more about the mission and the problems at hand now?
Yeah, it's always about the mission and the problems. So I'm totally incentivized by learning. I think like whenever I feel I can learn a lot, I'm excited and just up to do it. And then also really solving these problems at hand, that is something that's really motivating me. The exit, on the other hand, is not interesting me at all. And that's that's why I was also referring to this thing of, people always say you need to have this higher goal, this goal of you in a couple of years. And then, it would be quite easy to say, and then we will have this exit, and then hopefully I'm going to be a millionaire. That's really uninspiring for me, this idea. So, but then you get thinking, okay, if it's not the money, what is it? What is it that keeps you motivated to do this every day again? And it's something else. It's just the intrinsic motivation to do this. Yeah.
I think you only get one life, and when you realize that, I think there's like a quote, I can't remember if Confucius said it. A person has two lives, and the second life begins once he realizes he's only got one life. Almost like time is short, something like that. I think I got that right. But it's something I've kind of realized because I took the leap this year in setting up my own business. And I was 25 when I did it. Nice. And nice. I think it was like a quarter life crisis. So I was like, oh my God, I'm 25. Like, I'm as close to 30 as I am to 20.
Come on.
I know.
30 is the new 20, remember.
I know. I'll definitely say that when I'm 30. But it was interesting. My dad said something to me, and he was just like, when you get to 25, 26, everyone, you think you're really old, but you're really not.
Yes.
But yeah, you only do have one life, and at the end of it, you want to look back and see that you've made a difference to the world, and if you've made a little bit of money along the way, then that's great. We'll wrap up soon because I know you're pretty busy and you'll have lots to do. But if I'm like if there's like aspiring founders out there, whether they're at university or they're working in a job at the moment and they have a couple of ideas and want to take that leap, is there anything you wish you'd known then that you'd known now that you could give advice on?
So for me personally, I think the biggest learning was about leadership, and that when you start a business, you're not only a founder just doing this, but at a certain point when you have a couple of people working with you, you have to acknowledge that you are in a leadership role. And I think it happens quite easily that you do not acknowledge this because you're all the same age, you're all starting this together and trying to do this, and you don't realize that you have a different role. And probably also you should have a different role. And I mean, I think that's a personality thing, right? I mean, if you're maybe a bit more hierarchical, maybe that comes natural for you that you start living up to this role. But this is something that took me a bit too long, I would say, to realize that, hey, okay, now you're actually in a leadership position. You're not just one of the others in this team and we're all doing this together, but there are certain expectations that other people have with regard to your role, and that you should try to live up to. I think just realizing this is half of the game there. So that's something I think that's good to think about. And then people is everything. You really want to find the right people to do this with you, your founders, but also the people you work with. And I remember I had an exchange with another friend from a startup, and she said something that I never forgot until now. Actually, she said that the good people that you want to work with, they're not just better, they're 10 times better. And to find them, that's the crucial difference, actually. And you really you really want to find these people that are 10 times better, and ideally 10 times better than you. And don't let your ego prevent you from finding these people. That's, I think, very important. Yes.
A lot of people say that. I think that it's so tempting if you have a little bit of success, at the early stages, you kind of want to hold on to that success, hold on to that authority, and that can give you the temptation to surround yourself with, yes people who will just say whatever you say and are maybe as bright as you.
Yeah. So, absolutely. And maybe also then in this regard to, maybe because you don't have perfect people all the time, right? I mean, people are people. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one is perfect. So we also need to realize this, but we also need to have a common understanding, I think, of how we want to keep developing, right? And and this is something that we really want to live at LanaLabs as well. Continuous improvement. And this counts for us as people as well. We want to continuously improve ourselves. And in order to do this, you need feedback. And that sounds so easy sometimes, right? And I remember when we did the first feedback workshop, our team was like, whoa, why are we doing this? It's not like we have a feedback issue here, right? And I was like, well, I don't get feedback here. I don't get direct feedback from anyone. And basically, I don't remember myself giving direct feedback too much, right? I mean, where for some people, they don't really realize it. But I think if you really practice this, it's so important to give each other feedback in order to develop. And I think that's also something you have to learn and then keep on practicing.
It must be hard as a founder. I know probably some people find it harder than others to almost invite your employees to criticize and give constructive feedback. It's probably hard for the employees as well to do that as well.
Probably, and that's why. But if you're not such an hierarchical person yourself, it's not so easy for you to understand why people won't just come and tell you what they think. Right? You're like, come on, you could just have told me that you think this way. Hello, it's me. But this is exactly what I meant about realizing what kind of role you have and what impact it has. So, yeah.
So you have to put your martial arts hat on.
Yeah,
at that point.
Exactly.
And with that, I think we've come full circle. I would say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and sharing your journey. There was so much value in that, and I know for a fact that a lot of people out there will get some value from it as well.
Thanks a lot, Alex. It was really fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the Building Our World podcast. To show your support and to stay up to date, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.